So I think I've said this before enough times, but Angela Rayner doing fantastic work, really, really on a number of times, really sticking it to the Tories. In fact, yesterday you saw them completely run a mile that they would not even dare to engage Angela Rayner and even Labour over these new PPP or PPE allegations and scandals that are sort of happening and opening up. And I think this might be just the first of a wave of people who are linked potentially to the Tory party, because as we'll find out today, this raises even more questions. And the fact that they are not wanting to answer these questions or even at least look into them suggests that there may be even, shall we say, more Tory links. And in this case of question, why aren't they answering these questions? Because these questions raise more questions, and it really does look like they have something to hide. And I would not be surprised if this becomes a massive scandal. Like, I mean, a massive scandal. It really does feel like this might be a really big scandal. And I really, really, really do hope that Labour really do push for an independent inquiry just into PPE, because I know this is being dealt with the sort of the larger COVID inquiry, but I feel that because that's got so much to do already, that this scandal alone, this issue might just get lost in the paperwork. So I feel as this should be treated as a completely separate issue and have its own inquiry into. And even if sort of say the Tories refuse and Labour get in, first thing you do, inquiry into it. Go start digging, because it's very, very clear they've got something to hide. And I think that these people should be sort of, start to answer some very, very questions and just watch squirm and see what happens. Because at the moment, that is what they're doing. And it seems that they cannot cover this up forever. So I would not be surprised if at least maybe this weekend or even next week that we get even more revelations about all this. So yeah, like I say, we're going to go over today to Angela Rayner to see what she's written sort of in response to all this stuff that's going on. And essentially, a really key point here, what Labour's plans are to actually solve this. Because I think this is a key point in restoring trust in politics. As I said before, cleaning up politics can be a massive potential vote winner at the next sort of, general election. I think that would be a really good idea. So we're going to go into what she's sort of had to say about this. And yeah, she's doing a cracking job. I can tell you that now. So as always, thank you very much for watching. And sort of supporting the channel. So please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button as you are sort of here. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, my one-off link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can buy me a coffee. And of course, there's the YouTube thank you button, where you can again sort of the one-off donation link. There's the YouTube Pony Club as well. And as always, thank you very much to everyone who does support the channel. So over we go to sort of cover this in the Guardian. The title of Lady Mono is accused and still the Tories won't come clean about PPE. What are they hiding? The new Guardian revelations about Michelle Monod claims that she and her children secretly received about £29 million originating from the profits of PPE, at least a PPE business that was awarded a large government contract after she recommended it to ministers. This goes way beyond startling headlines. They're also clearly highlighting the conflict of interest and failures of due diligence that lay behind the waste of billions of pounds of taxpayers' money and a Tory VIP lane that was declared illegal by the High Court earlier this year. We learn that the PPE MedPro was given at least £203 million to supply face masks and sterile surgical gowns at the height of the pandemic. Lady Monod, a Tory peer, referred the PPE MedPro to the Cabinet Office in May of 2020, 5 days before it was even registered as a company. She contacted the then ministers Michael Gove and fellow Conservative peer Lord Agnew, offering to supply PPE for a price. Lord Agnew referred the PPE MedPro to the VIP lane, fast-tracking the bid for public contracts. It now appears that tens of millions of pounds for those contracts have ended up in offshore accounts connected to the individuals involved. And hey, let's go after that money. We should be absolutely going after that money. And if they do not give it back, well, hey, off to jail you go. I generally think that should be it. And I think we should start, Labour should really be sort of, sort of bringing out the billy clubs and really sort of beating down on these people, and especially on the Conservatives as well, because this is just a massive vote winner. It really is. So next, continuing. So the government has admitted holding records and even correspondence relating to the award, including any declarations of interest and due diligence, but it has refused to publish it, saying that it is in mediation with the company. So commercial confidentiality applies. This is an excuse that has been making for over 10 months now. That is the opposite of transparency. Today in the House of Commons, I called on ministers to commit to release both the COVID-19 public inquiry and to the Parliament. They have no such commitment. Asked about the progress that has been made in mediation, they would say that only that it had been not yet reached a satisfactory conclusion, and that is certainly one way of putting it. We know that over 25 million surgical gowns for which the government paid PPE and MedPro of over 122 million pounds of our money were subsequently rejected after inspection. They were not even used. Ministers have failed to explain that abject failure, and they would not say today whether a penny of public funds had been recovered. Today, Gove, back in the cabinet, claimed that Monod's refusal had been passed to a quote independently run channel, but she was unable to say to what due diligence was being performed. They are rightly separate questions for Monod to answer, and about her previous denials of involvement in the PPE MedPro and her apparent failure to actually declare it. When asked about this omission, her lawyer replied, Baroness Monod did not declare any interest as she did not benefit financially and was not connected to PPE MedPro in any capacity. The Guardian's latest revelations cast doubt on this claim, raising serious questions about the apparent conflict of interest and what the government knew at the time. And what the government has not denied is that the Conservative politician apparently benefited personally and financially from her connection to a business that was awarded substantial government contracts as a result of her lobbying by a backdoor not available to others. It is not just about one case, this goes far wider. The government has written off more than £9 billion alone on PPE that was procured with public money and then deemed unfit for use, unusable, overpriced, or underdelivered. These were gloves, goggles, gowns that were needed on the front line in the NHS, and care homes that were left wearing bin bags instead. As families struggle to make ends meet, taxpayers are still paying £770,000 every day for storage of the PPE that is unfit for use, and that's enough to put more than 36,000 children into part-time nursery care. This represents billions of wasted money through downright incompetence and sleaze. It looks that a successful Labour motion to force this government to actually release its records over the Randox scandal, which led to the exposure of the now disgraced former Tory MP Owen Paterson, who broke the parliamentary rules for robbing that firm. He now says the investigation into his conduct has breached his privacy and was unfair. It's a total mess, but it's also certainly time that the government was committed to release all the records relating to PPE MedPro. Worse still, these shameless ministers have now appeared to have learned nothing from these scandals. The government's new procurement bill gives them free rein to hand out billions of pounds of taxpayers' money of cash once more, and far from showing what they have taken steps to actually prevent a repeat of this scandal, they've brazenly admitted that if the new pandemic were to be unleashed upon us tomorrow, they would do it all again. But we can no longer afford any such more of these scandals or even waste on such an epic scale. And this is where we get to sort of the Labour plans on this. And I do really like these two ideas of these units being set up. I think they're really good ideas. So Labour will put an end to this culture of cronyism and waste with a new plan for procurement and an office for value for money to ensure that public money is spent with care. And it's Labour that has a plan to clean up politics by restoring standards in public life through the Independent Ethics and Integrity Commission. Britain is being sick of being ripped off by the Tories. It is time to turn their procurement racket on its head. And like I say, these two things are fantastic. An office for value for money, making sure that public money is being spent with care and properly. That is fantastic. Also, it depends what other powers this office has, how it reports. Will it have any prosecuting power? If it does find that money isn't being spent, how can it make sure that it is? There's still sort of questions sort of answered to be asked. Like I say, I think we'll find out more certainly in probably the Labour manifesto. And then This is, I think, going to be quite a big vote winner as well. An independent ethics and integrity commission. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Because at the moment, MPs sort of still judge their own. That can no longer be sort of going on, as we saw with the Owen Paterson scandal. Certainly, Jacob Rees-Mogg and others in the sort of Tory party tried desperately to try and save him. And even now, he's going to the European Court of Human Rights, a committed Brexiteer. And hey, I thought they hated the EU, but hey, turns out not when it's got something to give them. But as always, I think this scandal will roll on, and I think it's just a question of how much more. I think there is still yet more to come. I think that potentially there are going to be more scandals that break about this. It would not surprise me, but we'll have to see. Yeah, still more to come on this, and it depends now how much pressure is going to be really put on the Tories on this, because I think Labour, if they play the cards right, like they did with the Randucks, forcing those to be sort of released, I think they have every chance of possibly uncovering even more stuff. But we'll have to see what happens there. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, we'll see you all next time.